Good evening, Randomania 2. Welcome to this week's race, hosted by Randomania. My name is Jat, and I'm joined in the booth tonight by my fellow ex-duckling, DVS. How are you doing tonight, DVS?
Doing good. Excited to actually be on comms today.
Yeah, we've both been racing a bunch, but now it's our turn to kind of, get in the booth and kind of evaluate what some of these very experienced runners are doing, alongside someone we were just racing against in Rubes. So we got a little bit of a spicy weekly race going on today. Do you want to go over the flags just briefly, as I'm going to drop the gate in about 10 seconds here?
Absolutely. So a little bit of background on these flags. There was discussion about the match between our previous Duckling Supreme and our newer first place runner, Sir Link-A-Lot. And this was essentially a fusing together of all four tracks of the Duck Derby. What you're going to see tonight, you're going to see a floor and entrance shuffle. You're going to see two forced party members. You're going to see a free airship. And you're going to see a shard hunt. Tonight, if you've been keeping track of the Duck Derby, tonight you are going to see all of that crammed together into a single flag set, prepped by our own Gregory Puff. And you can specifically know Gregory Puff set this up because Black Belt and Master MDEF growth has been changed to +3, +4.
Yeah, so starting off right away, the nicest thing in the world to see from for entrance floor shuffle is we have level 1 exits. So why is exit so important here?
Exit and Warp are the two spells that you definitely want to have going into exit floor shuffle. You don't want to wind up in the situation where you're jumping through Sky 1, a sea floor, 5 or 6 floors deep, and winding up at a Cardia Treasure floor. Essentially what that means is you'd have to loot the Cardia Treasure floor and then walk out all the way out of that entire 5 or 6 floor progression. And so having exit or warp available is going to really help you get to the end, dive deep in these floors, and know that you can always jump back out if, let's say, 2 of your party members go down, you run out of resources, or you just wind up with a dead end. It looks like Darendries just found the spell over there in Elfland. Finding Nuke, it looks like, at level 3.
Yeah, and Elfland right in Canaria Castle. So of all the towns that you're looking for, we do have, as we said, towns shuffled into the pool. Not deep towns, so nothing too crazy, but of the towns you're looking for in the early game, Provoca and Elfland are right up there. So really a nice gift to have it right beside our starting location.
Absolutely. Actually, for this flag set, I'd probably put Elfland above Provoca, solely because we have a pretty unique set of key items where it's basically just weapons and not progression items. So whereas Provoca is usually nice because you get an early key item, really that's off the table now. So Elfland is really a great find for Canaria.
And already we see a lot of divergence between the various runners, and that's because this free airship is something that's a little bit unusual paired with entrance floor flags, especially with towns. So we're seeing SVJ kind of just quickly exploring a bunch of entrances, probably trying to find something like Provoca or a Crescent Lake, whereas some of the other runners are willing to dive a little bit deeper. Now, both strategies have their own benefits, but finding a really quick Provoca and then just quickly noting down, this is a dungeon, this is a dungeon, this is dwarves, etc., is not a bad starting thing. However, it will slow you down a little bit as you're kind of making the trade-off of having to go all over the map first.
Absolutely. And it looks like 3 of our runners, Stefan Jester, Rubes, and Wilkliosis, all found Temple of Fiends and already did an initial dive of that. And it'll be interesting to see, because there's kind of 2 styles of play, and you're doing floor entrance. There's the go to every entrance, and every entrance you go, sorry. Is that a Nuke 1 shirt?
Yes.
Darendries just picked up from the king?
Yes.
I don't know. I didn't see where that entrance is. Like Elfland or Elfland Castle. That's a great thing to find early game.
Yeah, the Nuke shirt is going to make everything a huge difference here right away. I mean, we did have level 3 nuke, so magic wasn't going to be too big of a problem, but oh man, nuke shirt's going to make it so that, for example, your thief is just going to be able to do so much additional damage compared to, swinging around fists or a really weak thing. It also is going to make a huge difference for Rubes' party in particular, as that nuke shirt is going to allow the black belt to solo grind a lot easier.
Absolutely, yeah. I was actually going to think of party comp when we jumped into this particular stream, because there's so many different ways to approach entrance and floor shuffle. Whether it's prioritizing running with a thief, prioritizing having your fighter to just tank some damage, or you have some casters. The white mage versus the black mage in terms of whether or not you want to have an offense or a defense. The fact that you have a nuke shirt basically eliminates all of that fear about having a active, about having powerful beginning game magic. For someone like Darendries, who's picking up a thief, a black belt, a white mage, and a black mage, originally their black mage was the only one with offensive magic, and now you have not just your black mage with that level 3 nuke, you also have any one of the other party members coming in with that nuke shirt.
Speaking of not only great offensive magic, we also saw level 2 warp in Provoca on Wilkliosis' screen. So both of the key entrance floor spells available early. They're going to have plenty of charges, as well as fast. So magic in all is just looking fantastic for this seed, which is really going to make this early game kind of even faster than it might already be with the free floater.
Absolutely. And Jet, did you roll this seed?
I did roll the seed, and the last time I rolled a competitive seed with forced white mage thief only, I rolled level 1 fade, and this time I rolled a nuke shirt and level 1 exit, level 2 warp. So, if you want easy mode competitive seeds, make sure that I'm doing comms and rolling your seed, because
I will
it seems
100% make a note of that.
Rubes just found the Oxyale in Sky 1, and that's something that we haven't really noted, which is that all key items are loose, with the exception of the canoe. So you're going to be seeing these runners kind of checking basically all the chests they need until they find exactly two very important items, and then a few other ones are just going to help them move around, check more entrances. So what are the 2 items that we're going to need to win here? And then what else are they kind of looking for?
I think I just noticed Wilkliosis pick up a ribbon -4, I think,
yes.
on an Earth 4. Wilkliosis has a strong start right now, I think. Yeah, so those 2 key items that we're looking for are going to be the loot and the key. The reason that those 2 key items are so important is because those are required to get into the end game. For an entrance shuffle, things like the rod, Oxyale, and the cube, while they're very good in the standard game, are not great when it comes to floor entrance shuffle, because you might not need to use them. Whereas with floor entrance, getting that loot in that key are required for the long Topher that we have in this particular flag set. So since we have essentially a vanilla Topher, the loot and key are required, which means that even if you're in go mode where you have all of your shards and you know where Temple of Fiends is, you might still have to go find and open a bunch of chests to find that loot and key.
Yeah, so for our runner's sake, we're really hoping that, we find a relatively free or somewhere easy to find key and loot, or else they could be in for a lot of chest opening. Now, something that's been a little bit quick passing by is we are looking for 32 shards, which is about as high as you reasonably get. So in this case, they're called slivers. That's those SLIVRs that you're seeing, as they're always named slightly differently. But 32 is a relatively high number. It does mean they're going to have to go to, not necessarily all, but most of the locations. They're likely going to want to kill the fiends if they can get them. Yeah, so yes, we're looking for that loot and key. Yes, if they don't find it early, they could be in for a long search, but they're going to be opening a bunch of boxes anyways with a 32 shard count, so nothing too crazy.
And it's interesting there, because it looks like they had the Forced Thief, this particular flag set. And typically, when you're doing a lot of opening boxes, the one a class that you really get excited to have is the fighter because of the diversity of weapons and armor that the fighter's able to use. Once you get to promotion, the thief essentially doubles its ability to wear different weapons and equip different armor. And so another thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that each of these runners has a free tail already. They're not going to have to look for the tail in open chests. They're not going to look in incentive locations. As long as they find Bahamut, they're going to get that upgrade, which essentially makes the thief, once it gets promoted to a ninja, a much more valuable member of the team, and would lead someone to say, you know what, I might not need a fighter, because once I promote, that thief is really going to be able to take damage and do damage.
And yeah, if you didn't join us earlier, another key flag that's on right now is the magic defense. I wouldn't really call it the fix, but the change, so that the master is getting +4 instead of +3. So all party members will only benefit from promotion. So there's not going to be that little black belt dance that we sometimes see for Rubes and Wilkliosis, who are both running black belts. They will be able to promote basically as soon as possible. And I think that's a big incentive for why some of them brought a black belt, as opposed to, you know, a fighter as a second melee or running no second melee at all.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that it seems like a small thing of, you know, hey, that's just one little seed. But really, if you found an early Bahamut, you're going to have that conflict in yourself of, do I promote to get the extra spell cast, to get the better armor on my fighters, or do I delay to get the better MDef on my black belt? By changing that one flag, essentially the black belt got a buff. The black belt's pretty OP to begin with, and now essentially you could pretty much walk through Temple of Fiends with just the high level black belt with that particular flag on.
Absolutely. And while you were speaking, Wilkliosis finds another loose item in the rod. And this is, you know, Wilkliosis' slightly different strategy than what we're seeing, like, say, SVJ doing there, in that he's diving dungeons, and in doing so, he's able to get both a couple levels, as well as find these key items earlier. And that's making quite a difference here. Now, that's not to say that he's ahead by any stretch. It just means that his exploration is happening and also paying off nicely. So that's something to keep an eye on. But that being said, I'm not surprised to see the other runners start. As we can see, Darren Dries is going through Waterfall. Now, Waterfall is an incentive location, you would think, which means that a lot of people would assume it's off. But in this case, the robot actually does count as an NPC. So this is going to turn into either the canoe or one of the incentivized items, which are the defense, the Thor hammer, the power bonk, or the power gauntlet, which casts an unknown spell, the white shirt or the black shirt. So basically all 5 of our casting items are in the pool. So who knows what we'll find from this waterfall.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because, you know, typically when you're running, when you're figuring out your party comp, also thinking about what additional items am I going to be looking for through this floor entrance shuffle to feel confident in Topher. We are, like, for example, the defense sword. Defense is always something that you want to have available to you in order to cast ruse and end up, you know, fight, and you end up 1-to-1 against chaos, and it ends up, you know, miss. You don't have to worry about any physical attacks. However, by having item magic be randomized, you have no idea what you're going to get. Could end up with the nuke shirt, which we've already seen, or you could end up with something like the A Fire helmet, which is largely useless to our runners.
Yeah, and the nuke shirt is actually interesting because the nuke shirt's going to help them a lot through the early game and through, you know, the mid and late game. However, something like the defense swords, which cast ruse, is actually going to be more helpful for a safe Topher. Actually, almost all of the vanilla items, like the white shirt, the defense sword, and the power gauntlet in particular, are all extremely important safety items that we're not necessarily going to be able to get. So with 300% clamp bosses, these runners are going to have to make sure that they're getting some levels, as well as a good endgame weapon, and finally the right spells in order to get through this, because, you know, they could be running into very difficult and very aggressive fiends as they go through the long Topher.
I mean, not just clamp bosses, but we also have clamped enemies. Well, I think I saw one of our runners run into a group of 4 rock galls. And most of the time, when you run into rock galls in one of these randomizers, there's a chance that you're going to get a low HP rock gall that's going to give you tons of experience for little work. By having those enemies clamped, running into a rock gall is much more of a stressful situation than it might be otherwise.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's definitely gonna have to be some planning and some very um, purposeful leveling that each of our runners is gonna have to do.
Hmm. We also do have, I know it feels like, we're 15 minutes in and we're still going through the flag set, but it's because it's quite a diverse flag set. If you've been watching the Duckling flags or the weekly flags, you're going to see all sorts of crazy stuff here compared to those. So this one also has another flag on, which is the, where is it? Oh yeah, the scaling per shard. So the runners, speaking of like when they're going to take an opportune grind, they're going to get 25% for every 8 shards that they find, which isn't a ton, but it is pretty good, which means that, they might want to get 8 or 16 shards in the bank before they, like, say, grind their black belt up. But my partner in the co-op tournament, which is upcoming later this month and we'll get to in a little bit, Burt Reynolds is in chat, always kind of chides me correctly to say, don't worry too much about those extra experience because early levels are worth more than late levels, but we'll have to see if the runners decide to grind early or late.
Absolutely, and we do have a Wormex setting up in the top right with Derindries. And again, with having that clamped enemies, this Wormec is going to have at minimum vanilla health, and I'm not sure we've seen life yet. So the fact that Derindries just taking 3 of their light warriors down, I don't blame them for trying to find another place to die before heading back to the Bridge of Destiny.
Yeah, we have not yet seen life. We've only seen levels 1 through 4 magic, and they've been honestly fantastic. So if you're just joining, I'll quickly go through what we found already. We found level 1 exit, level 2 warp, level 2 fast, level 3 nuke, and heal 3, and ruse, and level 4 invis 2, as well as there is a lock spell available. So like that kind of end game spell list that you're looking for, what we're really missing is Cure 4 and Temper, but outside of that, we're in pretty good shape. So Cure 4, Temper, and a life spell, as we mentioned. So those are all things that these runners are going to be looking for in the later levels, and we do see a life spell right away, life at level 6.
And Wall as well. Wall is another one of those, I want to say overlooked white magic spells. Essentially, Wall, casting Wall on one of your party members gives them a ribbon, so it gives them protection against all of the different elements. And if with floor entrance, with doing a shard hunt, oof! Did he just get a wall hammer?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this game. I love this game so much.
But yeah, Wall is a very
Why can't you have rolled all of our seeds for the Duckling Derby? just to like present all of the wonderful things that are happening in the seed right now for our 4 runners. I would be elated if I was running the seed right now.
Yeah, Wall at level, or Wall item magic, nuke item magic. This is very kind so far. And actually having Wall there is extremely convenient, as it's going to let the runners have anyone cast Wall, including like the fighter. So even if he doesn't get turn order and like the white mage gets, punched out or something, and the ribbon was on that white mage, you can still cast Wall.
Absolutely. So like, in terms of party comp, like, whenever you're diving into a seed, you're thinking very carefully about who is going to be the best class to complement like in this case, especially with a forced party, both complement the 2 forced party members, but also be the best ones to get through the floor entrance shuffle and to get you through a vanilla Topher. So when you're looking at, I believe it was a forced thief and black mage, trying to figure out, do I risk not being able to get white magic and take the red mage, or am I going to take the white mage and hopefully I'll get some sort of attack, magic early, a fade, a casting weapon. So it looks like with the way that our particular runners have chosen their parties, unlike Wilcliosis' setup, it ended up really falling into that sweet spot. You have your thief to get rid of running. You're going to have your black belt, which is going to have phenomenal power at the end of the game. You have your red mage who can cast early nuke. You have your black mage who can do all of your black magic. You got your nuke shirt, so essentially, yes, 3 nuke casters. And you have your wall hammer. Kind of get the best of both, like the perfect complement of everything.
Yeah, critically here is that those life spells are red wizard learnable, I believe. I didn't see exactly what slots they're in, so one of the one of our chat members can help me out here. But the red mage really got all the spells that are important, with maybe the exception of potentially temper, depending on where that rolled. As I believe at this point there's only 1 slot remaining for temper to roll into, which is slot 1 in Gaia, in order for the red wizard to be able to cast it.
And Derendry's found the armory, and I just saw an ice sword 4 that popped up in that armory. So if they have that red mage, or if they have a fighter, that's going to be a nice weapon for them. It looks like they don't. So, but whatever of our runners are able to find that ice 4 is going to give some good melee early. And we'll kind of see we'll see how this transitions from early game to late game. I feel like, these nuke casts are very, very good for the early game. If you run out of spells in late game diving through Topher, you're going to get in trouble. This is definitely going to be an interesting seed.
Yeah, and Wilklios is finding everyone's nightmare, the C-split, fairly deep inside of a dungeon. So this is a really nice time to have both entrance and warp. As Rubes finds the bridge, which is always a little bit of a funny item to find with the floater. But the C-split is really nice with warp and exit, because you can go down one side, then determine if you want to get out, or if you want to instead just warp back up to the C-split to check the other side. In particular, and this is something important to pick up, is that you can light your orb, which in this case will just give a number of shards, but not exit, as they're one step different. And you can light your orb and then warp back up and then check the other side. However, that is playing, a little bit risky. So we'll have to see if that specific thing occurs. Mighty Metric Batman, sorry. Mighty Metric Batman asking in chat how many shards are required, and the answer is 32. And there are going to be 32 shards placed in this world, plus an additional 12 that they can get from killing the fiends, with 4 from both Tiamat and Carrie, and 2 from Lich and 4 from Tiamat and Kraken, and 2 from Lich and Carrie. So there are a total of 44 shards available. So the runners can leave a few behind, but they are going to have to get quite a few.
And to go on top of that, you actually do not have to defeat all 4 of the fiends. It is simply just collecting those 32 shards. So even we found an early an early Bridge of Destiny for Derendry's. He doesn't necessarily have to go back and defeat Tiamat. He can end up getting all of those 32 shards without even having to fight that particular fiend.
Yeah, and that's really important. And Wilklios is finding a critical spot in finding promotion, which, it's a good upgrade across the party, and because any levels that he got with that black belt are levels he can never get with the master, which means he's losing an MDef per level, which is pretty important. And the other key thing is it turns that thief into a ninja, and the upgrade from a thief to a ninja is probably the largest of any class, and that really unlocks their full offensive, but also critically at this level, defensive capabilities, as the armor list that the ninja can equip compared to the thief is a massive improvement.
It's completely different. Yeah, there's so much more available for the ninja in terms of armor. And, this also brings up the conversation about endgame weapons. So you have that. There is the Team Vorpal versus Team Massive fight. But really, the katana is a very unique weapon because it's only equipable to that ninja. It's easily better than the Vorpal, personal opinion, and the higher crit rate that it has can make it eke out in front of the Massive, depending on RNG and scaling. So I don't think that we've seen a katana yet.
No.
But once we find one, it's gonna be a wonderful asset to anyone that has that promoted ninja.
Yeah, and I believe Darren Dries has found either 1 or 2 ribbons. Yeah, 2 ribbons here on their dive. So whatever dungeon Darren Dries is in right now, really paying off. So 2 ribbons, pretty much the magic number for Temple of Fiends Revisited, as it lets you put 1 on your life caster and 1 on your primary melee damage dealer. So, and the ruby. So wow, this dungeon really paying off.
Absolutely, absolutely. And random train of thought. But we do have SVJ who just found OnRack, and one of the unique things about OnRack is OnRack actually has its own entrance inside of it. It's that Oxiel turn-in, and it looks like SVJ was able to find Elflin Castle inside of OnRack itself. It does not have the herb, so he's not going to be able to benefit from that. But it is a nice thing to know. Hey, I've got OnRack, which is a town. I can get some magic. I can get some good items. There's also a deeper dungeon that contains Elflin Castle.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, with everything being loose, not only does Elflin Castle have item that you can turn it also will importantly have 4 chests you can open kind of for free once you get the key. So it is actually somewhere that might be worth going back to. Of course, currently none of our runners have found the loot or the key, so those continue to be elusive. As Wilkliosis does something a little bit unusual, which is go into what is normally a dead end. So we spoke about entrance floor, town shuffle, but we also have dead ends included, which is a little bit unfortunate, to be honest, in that it can mean you go down a really, really long dungeon. Not unfortunate as a flag, just unfortunate for sometimes our runners, in that they can go down a really, really long dungeon and end up getting a whole load of nothing at the bottom. Not quite so painful with exit, but still something to be aware of.
I do want to take a second. I want to highlight Rube 000 right now. You'll notice that Rube's is currently walking across, I mean, I assume it's ice, but he's taking damage every single step. And you'll notice that he's constantly looking at his party members and focusing healing on Ruby. I believe you also saw him unequip some of his party members of their armor. And you'll notice that even in this screen right now, as he's fighting that sandworm tile, you'll see that he's given all of the HP or full HP to Ruby, which is his black belt. What he's probably trying to do is he's probably trying to set up other party members being killed off by these sandwiches so that all of that experience can get funneled directly to his black belt. And he's probably going to try to get to at least level 32 in this one grind, and that can set him up for the entire rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. I was going to actually speak that one thing I hadn't seen yet is a good grind tile, but this sandwich, or sandworm tile, or sandwiches as we tend to call them, as they are nice and tasty and full of great EXP, is fantastic, exactly what they look like. And what you're seeing here actually is something that is really a big benefit of this nuke shirt, which is that you're going to be able, this black belt, is going to be able to take these sandworms on even earlier than he would normally be able to because of the fact that he can cast nuke. Normally you kind of have to wait until the black belt can one-shot these sandworms until you can put the black belt kind of down to solo mode, but because of the fact that he has that nuke shirt, he can funnel the levels even faster onto it. Now, this grind is slightly risky, as he does need 2 nukes, and he's taking about 50 damage, so, with an unlucky crit, this black belt could go down, so I might have seen Rubes, spend a little bit more time with maybe the red mage up, just to take a few punches, but once he gets probably another 3 levels, he's going to be safe.
You had to talk about it.
Don't watch this back, Rubes. I'm sorry. Yeah, and the other thing I was going to point out was that I didn't love him moving the black belt to the first slot, because as Greggly Puff points out, is they'll start running away. So you actually want to leave a lower party member in the first slot, so that way the black belts, the sandworms won't run away, as the morale is only checked against the top party member slot, not all of them. So just a couple little adjustments that Rubes will hopefully make here. But right away you can see that he's decided he's going to get like maybe 5 to 6 levels on everyone before he starts standing off his party members. So maybe once his black belt's around level 20, his black belt will start soloing these sandworms.
And I just noticed on Darren Trees that we did find Life 2 out in Melmond. And that it appears to be at the Grass Cardiot entrance. That's just going to give you peace of mind. You have that white mage with you. That's going to give you some peace of mind going through some of these deep floors and these deep dungeons, knowing that you can res any of your party members to full health if you run into any trouble.
What slot was that in? In Melman?
I want to say it was 3.
Yeah, okay, that's what. Oh, huge pickup here on SVJ's side. Finding the key on the Agma floor in the top left. So that is one of the 2 critical items that they're going to need to win the game. Not only that, it also opens up just a number of free chests all over the place, which in this case are not incentivized, but are just going to help him find a bunch more shards. Oh, what?
And the loot in the same room!
And the masa?
Did he really? Ow. It looks like Agama floor. It's just the honey hole of everything in this particular seed. That is incredible. That's flabbergasted. Just gonna say that.
Yeah, wow, what a... They just took like Spellzab's dead body from the tournament and just like dumped it all there and say, here, this is everything you need to win.
Well, it does look like Rubes has learned from his unfortunate end and is keeping up 3 of his party members to get some early levels across the board before trying to do another level up. We have SVJ continuing to dive that Agama floor. Nucleosis has found, I want to say, no, that's not. Where was that? It's like Kraken floor. And Derringry's fighting some Gerwolves.
Yeah, so we do have a little bit of a surprise. I don't think we've mentioned, or if you came in late, sorry, I was dropping the gate as DVS went over the initial flag set, but we actually have a bit of a surprise for each of the Fiend fights, in that we do have the shuffled Fiend fights on. So this is the Kraken floor, but will it be Kraken? Tune in to find out shortly on the bottom right, Wilkliosis.
I don't know about you, Jack, but I want to say that Kraken is my absolute least favorite Fiend. It's hard, it's fast, and typically likes to back row any of your white mages or even some of your high hitters.
Yeah, Kraken is probably going to be one of the scariest. Now, the one saving grace is that we do have level 1 Brack, so like the 300% clamped only really affects how dangerous it's going to be. But we can, we may just be able to get a first turn Brack and it won't be an issue. And there's our 3rd ribbon on Rubes' side, so we do know where all 3 ribbons are, which is really nice, as that's something that, they're not going to have to go hunt down in the vanilla Masa chest or something like that.
Absolutely. And, Wilkliosis doing a very smart move and taking the time to heal up and prepare for this fight. Doesn't know if it's Kraken, it could be Lich, it could be Tia, it could be Carrie. Looks like we have Tia for our Kraken Fiend. We'll see how Wilkliosis responds to it.
Yeah, and something we haven't mentioned either, we just keep going into flags because these ones are crazy ones, but we also have randomized treasures on, which means those 3 ribbons were not guaranteed to be in the pool. So finding at least 3 ribbons, already nice, but we could even find the mythical 4th ribbon.
You gotta love it when that 4th ribbon just finds its way into those treasure chests. It's always a pleasant surprise.
Especially when you have a wall hammer. I think that would kind of be the funniest. This is a little bit unfortunate. So it looks like Wilkliosis was a little bit broke when they were in Canaria for the first time. So only has Bane on that red mage, which can still hit, but is less lower probability. Doing a mixed strat though, and getting a little bit unlucky here, is that's like 3 or 4 rounds of trying to do things to Tiamat, and both his mages go down. Uh-oh.
There is oof, and Wilkliosis takes the wipe against Tiamat, and looks like he's gonna find somewhere else to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay. So these runners getting told that these fiends at 300% clamp do not mess around, and to be honest, that was just a little bit of bad luck, but still a little bit of a tough break there for Wilkliosis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's.
Um,
I think this is one of those moments in the seed where you have to prepare. Sometimes going slow is what you need to do to go fast. You need to figure out, do I need to continue to explore? Or do I need to level up so that I can dive deep? And I think Rubes has made the right decision in trying to level up and strengthen some of his party members. Just been taking some pretty big risks when it comes to putting, especially his black belt, in situations that end up getting him wiped. We'll see if there are other runners who decide, you know what, could dive, but it's more important for me to get some levels before diving deeper into one of these dungeons.
Yeah, Wilkliosis is actually making a similar decision as he took a couple fights against some sandwebs and also going to get some juicy mage EXP here. You know, as you said, go fast by going slow sometimes. So go fast by being safe and getting the level so that way you can kind of accelerate throughout the seed. Reminds me of a very good book called Thinking Fast and Slow, but that's another topic, I guess.
Looks like
yes.
Looks like SVJ found Sparta deep in. Ooh, and the canoe. That's a great pickup. You know, the canoe actually is one of our incentivized items. So and considering that our main quest NPCs are the only locations that are incentivized in this particular flag set, it's very fortunate for them to find it, as you need to have that canoe, even with the airship, get into ordeals and the waterfall, and actually to get into vanilla on rack, without using the ship.
We
So
don't
SPJ
actually have extended northern progression on, so they will actually need the canoe to get into on-rack regardless.
Oh, yes, because that port isn't going to be there without extended northern progression. Well, SVJ has really opened up a couple extra locations for them to check, and we'll see if they take advantage of that early.
Mm-hmm. Now, once again, with that magical Agama floor room, he actually does not need to go to all of the different locations. Could end up just skipping it entirely. Was that a second Masa?
Yes. Yes, it is. I was gonna say. I was like, wait a second. I saw a Massa -3. Is that a second one, or is that where the first one was? So it does look like we do have two Massas in the incentive pool.
Which is as ideal as you could kind of... I mean, as we said, the Katana is probably better than the Masa against 300% Clamp Fiends, but with two melee classes who both need a sword to swing, especially considering SVJ hasn't yet found promotion, two Masas is exactly what that double melee class could want.
I mean, the wonderful thing about Massa is that it can be equipped to any party member.
Mm-hmm.
So you could actually see one of these runners decide to, you know, let's say they find a katana. You could drop the katana on your ninja. You'd have a Massa on your fighter, and you could throw the second Massa on a white mage and still do a ton of damage so that your black mage can focus on spell casting. I mean, the fact that Masses are by far the most versatile and powerful weapon that are available. It's just unfortunate that sometimes if you have a very strong physical defense, for someone like Chaos or one of our other Fiends, you have the chance of still doing 6 hits for 6 damage.
Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, I was going to say we are on beta, not alpha, so the minus is not as impacted on the critical rate. However, if we were on alpha, it's a much bigger impact. As SVJ about to go show Kraken/Tia, who's boss.
I think Rubes is in the exact same situation, as Wilkliosis makes his way to where Sarda was to pick up his canoe.
Now, one thing of note is that, to be honest, Wilkliosis made a nice adjustment against against Tia, who was in Kraken's location. However, he also just got really unlucky. Brack has about a 26 or 27% chance to hit, and he got off at least 3 or 4, plus Banes, which I believe have a 12% or so chance to hit. So this boss should be doable, but hopefully I did not just commentator curse Rubes again. I'm so sorry if anything
know
bad
what?
happens to you.
You know what? Considering the seed that you've rolled and the wonderful magic and items that they've had available, give you that one. If this doesn't go well, at least they still have that nuke shirt, and they can thank you for that.
That's true. That's true. So we are about to see dueling fiend fights on the left side of your screen, assuming Tiamat doesn't go down easily. Now, Rubes makes an adjustment here, which is going for damage strats, which I'm a little bit opposed to. The reason for that is I think it's going to be slower on average than just trying to brack Tiamat down. We're already on to round, I'd say 4 or so, and Brack once again has a 26% chance to hit. So you're on average with 2 Brack casters only going to take somewhere between 2 and 4 rounds. Sorry, teacher DBS, my probability is not on point on Twitch, but
right.
Brack is going to be kind of your go-to. It's going to be actually safer to go Bracks than it will be to try and outdamage it, as Tiamat could have upwards of 3,000 health.
And it looks like Rubes did switch over to Brack strats there at the end and was able to take down Tiamat. Let's see if SVJ follows a similar suit. It looks like they're going for Brack and and it looks like Will Cleosis is also on Tiamat. So we'll see if they continue to do Brack strats or if they go for damage.
Ooh, Glucleosis going in with the spicy fear, but not having any luck here. And one thing that I did like that Rubes did was cast a little bit of Invis to make it a little bit safer. But okay, there we go. Glucleosis gets the luck that, to be honest, he deserves after that kind of rough initial fight and gets through. Meanwhile, Saint SVJ still having a bit of issues against this. Bane just not effective. So Brack was expensive at level 1, and Bane is not what you want here. Once again, the hit rate is about half, I believe, of what Brack's is against Tiamat 1. So really cutting down on your odds. And every round counts as this Tiamat hits hard and has Thunder.
And it's tough because you know, again, you don't know how well this clamp or how high up Tiamat's health is going to be. So you could end up doing damage strats for a while and really devoting yourself to that, but it's incredibly hard to go from Brack and Bane strats over to damage strats, especially when you start losing Light Warrior. We'll see if he ends up getting a lucky draw with his lone red mage, it looks like, and he's out of Bane cast and decides to exit out of that, and we'll see where he goes from there.
So checking my tracker's notes, and by the way, it is Reese tracking for us tonight, Reese Lefeur, or I believe that's his Twitch name as well, has pointed out that we have had 4 ribbons found. So the magical 4 ribbon seed plus the wall hammer plus the nuke shirt all has arrived here. Yeah, Reese Wolf on Twitch. So yeah, just 4 ribbons. What more could you ask for with randomized treasures? We did have a question in chat.
This is something I would ask for, but you know what? We got that too.
Falconic asking in chat how many racers, and we do, I believe, have 5 racers tonight. So the 4 on stream plus Psytown, another Duck Derby entry with DVS and I, is also in here. Psytown did very well, so something to, you know, a runner these people should be a little bit afraid of. So we'll keep you updated on his progress as, you know, if he finishes off stream.
Absolutely. I think Psytown came in, I want to say 2nd place in our Duck Derby, and graduated up to Platypus. And yeah, I could definitely see Psytown finishing first in this particular run. So positive vibes out to Psytown while we turn back and look at and see how our 4 runners are doing here.
Yeah, we check our timestamps, and at this exact moment, he wipes the Tiamat or something like that. But, you know, positive vibes, positive vibes. So, you know, as we kind of hit the 40-minute mark here and our runners are doing various things, I did want to quickly mention a couple other things that are happening in the Final Fantasy Randomizer community. As we mentioned, our Duck Derby just finished, but if you're interested in getting started here, our Duck program is always ongoing. There will always be another Duckling Derby coming up in the next 6 months, in almost exactly 6 months now, and, you know, you can start training up at any time, so if you're interested in checking that out, come join us on the Discord. There's plenty of helpful people there, always willing to give you a hand through whatever flag set sounds fun. If you want to get started on this flag set, go right away. If you want to get started on something else, you know, we're there for you too. As we mentioned, the Duckling Derby just finished up, and then we also have 2 other kind of exciting ongoing things. So one is the co-op tournament coming up soon. DVS and I are both participating in that, as well as a bunch of these on-screen runners that I don't know if Rubes is, but I know SVJ is, as well as Wilkliosis. And that is going to focus on some more exciting shard hunt action. But instead of having, to collect all the shards, by yourself and figure out what every single entrance is, instead, you and a partner are going to have to collect those 32 shards. They're not shared, so both partners are needing to collect all of them, but you can go around, communicate, hey, the shard's here. You can get beautiful discussions about, that shard's in that chest. Which chest? The chest in Earth. What's chest in Earth? The one below the stairs. The upstairs stairs or the downward stairs? Various fun things like that.
It's been a great opportunity to get to know other people in the community. And in the co-op tournament, it's going to be fantastic. A quick shout out to Falconic, who's been working on eggs for this co-op. The co-op tournament, and he's been thinking of some very creative stuff, not just in terms of doing a single world co-op run, but also multi-world co-op, in which you would have runners running 2 different seeds, yet still sharing the same item pool. So there's going to be some really cool stuff coming down the line Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and there's 2 other big things to just quickly shout out, which is our Iron Gall, which is kind of our hardcore, challenge anyone to anything type of flag set. So if you're interested in that, you can come check that out on our Discord, as well as Falcon pointing out in chat, the Randomizer Relay Race, which is if you are the best at multiple games, or you just want to learn a couple new randomizers, you can come check that out all on our Discord. So, after that brief interlude, we're going to kind of head back into the action here as Rubes picked up the kind of quote-unquote God Room, the last Seeds winner, with the loot, the key, and the Masa. So they kind of have everything that they need. Meanwhile, Wilkliosis and Darendry still searching kind of for that magical room. Something of note, though, is that both SVJ now and Rubes are ready. As soon as they get all the shards they need, they can just piece out of the seed and go and enter Temple of Fiends Revisited, which they have already found.
Absolutely. And this is where you start getting, now that we're hitting the point where a lot of our runners are hitting that at half of the shards, maybe 3/4 of the shards, you'll start to see them calculating what they should do next. They go back and re-dive some entrances that they went for first but got wiped out of, or should they continue to look for new entrances and dive those? We've seen a number of our runners, decide to nope out of either, the Kraken fight or the Bridge of Destiny. And this is where you start having to figure out, okay, how many shards have I found that I decided to leave behind? How many entrances did I decide to nope of? And how many places are still left over? So I think some of these later game decisions are going to decide which runners edge out in terms of their routing.
Yeah, generally speaking, for Final Fantasy Randomizer, it's all about determining when am I in go mode. You just always want to have that in the back of your mind, but it is especially important here, is now once they have the key and the loot, there's tons of options available to them. So if there's anything that actually practicing for the co-op flags that has taught me, it's don't be afraid to just say, I'm going to leave this behind, because you don't have the chance to do that when, you have to kill, let's say, Tiamat. You can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to do Sky. But in this flag set, you absolutely can once you found that key and loot.
And you also have the opportunity of, we do have 32 shards is what we're specifically looking for, but there's more than 32 shards available in the seed. For example, we've seen our runners run through the armory, and there's a couple treasures that are kind of back in the upper corners of the armory. And you might see some of our runners decide to skip those chests, even if they end up having a shard inside of them. There's enough additional shards that they might be willing to risk leaving one behind, knowing that they might have some extra ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially once they found the canoe, which, as we've mentioned, our runners have. If you're missing the canoe and you don't know if you're going to find it, missing those critical entrances makes leaving shards, chests behind, which can potentially have shards, very risky, as you might not end up finding, let's say, the Tiamat floor. But with all the information that our runners currently have, they found the Bridge of Destiny, or at least the commentators know, we found the Bridge of Destiny, we found the Tiamat. or the Kraken fight. So both those 8 shards are available. You can definitely start skipping a few chests, like, you know, skipping things like TFC in Sea or TFC Earth are, you know, kind of widely accepted and even advised in many ways.
I want to highlight SVJ right now. Finding Gaia, and there's a couple things I want to point out. And found Gaia in the Lefane entry. What I saw on SVJ's screen was finding gold 4s in the shop for a relatively small amount of money. I want to say it was like 20,000, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're talking about floor entrance shuffle, when you're talking about having a lot of mages, you know, really those circlets
Mm-hmm.
going to be the most important item to find, and the fact that the golds ran +4 and they're affordable, that is a huge pickup in terms of defense, especially going into this late game. Additionally, SVJ found Temper. Now, granted, it was in the level 7 shop for Gaia, but you know, having already promoted, that is going to give them the advantage of having Temper cast available.
Was it in slot 1 or slot 2? I didn't catch it.
I want to say it was in slot 1.
Okay, because that's huge, because that's going to make it Red Wizard learnable as well. If it's in slot 1, which is level 7 Temper in slot 1 is exactly like the best case scenario for SVJ, for example.
It's good at pointing out a vendor ribbon. It's incredible. Again, ribbons are by far one of the greatest defensive items, not in terms of their absorb rate, because ribbons only have an absorb rate of 1 unless they have a positive buff. But it does give you resistance against every single type of element, and is incredibly important late game when you're running into some spells like some App, Axe.
Yeah, as my co-op partner pointed out, ribbons are the best item in the game that you like. It's the item. They kind of have diminishing returns. Like 1 ribbon is infinitely better than 0 ribbons. 2 ribbons is quite a bit better than 1. 3 is, you know, only slightly, and 4 is kind of okay. I don't quite need that much love, but the first ribbon is probably the best item you will find in this entire game. What you're looking for more than anything else. So, yeah. Now, I was just about to point out what Falconic is pointing out in the chat, which is that Wilkliosis actually has almost enough shards to win the game, but has not found the key loot treasure trove yet, as Wilkliosis kind of from the beginning has been in dungeon dive mode, so they've been, you know, really making sure to be thorough and go through kind of each dungeon they find to its fullest and then mark off continents as they go, rather than kind of exploring all the entrances quite shallowly, in a shallow fashion. But that's going to be huge, because that means basically as soon as Wilkliosis finds that key Agama floor, they're going to just be ready to go.
Absolutely. Finding 2 more slivers right there. You know, especially with our scaling, with having 25% buff in XP and gold, for every 8 shards that you find, having that extra shard count prior to going into your grind is very important.
Oh, that's an excellent point.
I don't believe Nucleosis has spent the time to start grinding for that black belt, but if they do decide to do the black belt grind, you can guarantee that it's going to go substantially faster than any of our other runners, based simply on the number of shards they found.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good point. I don't think these runners are going to be confident going into Temple of Fiends Revisited without at least a level 32 black belt. For those runners who are running black belt comps, and we get a Hooray Dwarf and a Hooray Dwarf kill because of NPC guillotines. So, hello Hooray Dwarf, goodbye Hooray Dwarf. Don't worry, he'll come back if you return. He's just temporarily disappeared.
I feel like we should take a look and see like the progress of how each of our runners are doing. As we've mentioned, Wilkliosis appears to be about 8 shards until they're ready to enter Topher. Looks like Rude's found the armory. SVJ is in Harsh Split, and we have Darren Drees that appears to be farming some of these sandworms in Ice Cave.
Yeah, I think SVJ and Rubes are in very similar positions. I think SVJ is maybe at four or so shards up on Rubes, but they both killed Tiamat, who was in Kraken's location, and SVJ about to go light another orb by killing Tiamat, or whatever fiend is in Tiamat's vanilla location. So
I feel like it's important to note that, let's say SVJ finds Carry at the end of the Bridge of Destiny. I believe the way that the shard hunt works is that you get the shards based on the orb that you light.
That's correct.
Not the fiend that you kill.
Yeah, that's correct.
SVJ finds Carry. It's amazing. And Kraken. Oh, I'm sorry. But they would have gotten 4 shards even if it happened to be. And to answer a question in chat, yes, we do have Thief and Black Mage that were the 2 forced party members, and the other party members were chosen by our runners.
Yeah, something I really don't like on SVJ's side, and this is a minor nitpick, but the fact that he hasn't picked up Brack, even though it was at level 1, is a little bit unfortunate, especially considering going back to Canaria to pick up Invis on his knight is not a bad call. So yes, you're trying to go fast, but the lack of Brack is just making these fights so much more dangerous. And the fact that we're at, once again, 300% clamp means that this Kraken can have, 2,400 HP. Yeah. So just punching through it could take a very long time, especially when you're missing with your knight with a Masa. So having Brack, when it's that freely available, not a bad decision at all to not pick it up initially when money's tight, but going back quickly to pick it up at some point could have saved, as much time just on this Kraken, never mind the Kraken and Tia fight that you're going to be taking on.
Absolutely. I am noticing, and you can see a little bit of the experience of Will Cleosis, who has been running in this community for a long time, based on the number of shards found. I'm taking a look at Darrendree's SVJ and Rubes, and I want to say that Will Cleosis might be at almost double the number of shards as some of our other runners. So it shows that importance of not just knowing kind of the styles of the game, but also density of chests, the importance of diving deep, not spending too much time on the overworld, traveling around, and really focusing on opening chests and doing what it takes to dive deep.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's going to be a lot of different strategies. Like, I will say that on the co-op tournament alone, I've seen a number of different strategies employed by different people, and that is absolutely not that's a really good thing. And sometimes different strategies pay dividends in different seeds, but in this case, I think it's been really good. However, it cannot be overstated the importance of the fact that he has not yet found the key in the loot. Because he could end up checking every entrance, and if he last locations the key in the loot, he could have 42 shards and do nothing without that. So that is absolutely critical. While I do agree with the general point that you're making, he's just been kind of unlucky that he hasn't happened upon full clearing the dungeon with the key in the loot. And yeah, here we go. You can see right away, SVJ actually going to go pick up all his spells now. But when you promote, there's the routing difference with the airship. I'm speaking specifically when you have the airship, as if you have just the ship, it's totally different. But if you have the airship, the routing difference you get from just kind of routing in all your early spells, especially when Elflin and Canary are right beside each other, makes a lot of sense to just go and buy your spells almost right away or like very quickly, because you'll never know when you really wanted that knight to have heal 3, or you really wanted, as we've seen in the past, Brack.
And that's something that, again, you and I have been ducklings, for the last couple months. Great job by Gregory Puff, Ailmark, and a number of the other members of the community, really taking the time to help us understand and learn this game better. Importance of prepping for Temple of Theme. It may seem counterintuitive, but sometimes taking the airship and going all the way to Lefane to pick up the power bonk is there is absolutely worth the quote-unquote wasted time that it takes in that travel. And it, even with going back and finding some of those, buying some of those early spells and really preparing your party for the worst, is going to prevent you from having deep wipes and Topher and having to redive the entire thing again.
Yeah, actually, picking up my spells pretty much right away after promotion is something that I picked up from watching last year's Spring Tournament champ and this year's runner-up Crabcakes play. She basically, as soon as she promotes, if she has the airship, will go grab spells in a lot of cases. Now, of course, that's because the promotion spot is close to Elfland, for example, but I think the same principle applies because it's like, yes, it's going to cost me maybe 30 seconds or 20 seconds in terms of routing efficiency, but if I get one heal 3 off, that's 5 or 10 seconds. If I get a res off that I wouldn't normally, that's infinite. That's like a minute loss or 2 minutes loss, right? So,
and we've all had that dive in Topher where we end up getting to Kraken 2, and Kraken 2 ends up back rowing our white mage that has our only life casts, and you know. In a lot of cases, that ends up meaning that you have to do the reset and the redive. By taking the time to go get that extra res spell or that extra cure 4 spell or having ruse when you know you don't have the defense sword, those are the kinds of decisions that are going to allow you to continue through Topher, even if the worst happened.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out a few more things that happened on screen while we were going through that little bit, is that we found a third Massa on Earth 3. And not only that, we also found an Excal 5. So we have 3 Massa -3s. We have an Excal 5. A sword for the whole party, a ribbon for the whole party. Wow.
You know what we don't have, Jet? We do not have a Vorpal. To some of our members, that is a crime. That is something that shall not go forgiven in this particular flag set. And I know that we have long debates about Team Vorpal and Team Massa, but there is some great love for that one sword. And you know what? They would much rather have a Vorpal -2 as opposed to a Massa -3. You gotta send love to every member of the community, not just the Massa member.
No, see, this flag just exists for newer players so they don't fall into the Vorpal trap. When there's no Vorpal, you don't accidentally equip it. So...
Jack taking the controversial stance.
Kind of overall right now, just to take stock, Will Cleosis is pretty close to his shard max, and so is actually Rubes and SVJ. Now, Rubes and SVJ have quickly caught up on shards, and what that makes me believe is that there was a few deeper, very shard-dense dungeons that they just didn't hit, that Will Cleosis hit early, as I believe that SVJ is about ready to enter Temple of Fiends Revisit around the 1 hour mark. Meanwhile, Will Cleosis is still searching for that magical Agama floor, as well as Darendrise, so that is something that's causing a little bit of problem. And unfortunately for SVJ, he just realized that Life 2 there was white locked, as it was in slot 3.
And I like that you pointed out, we've been talking so much about Will Cleosis and the shard lead that he has. But in a matter of moments, we have SVJ and Rubes just essentially catching up. And that goes to show there are specific spots where you do have high density shards. I still remember some of the early seeds I've run where I'd be in Sky 1 and end up finding 5 or 6 shards just on that one particular floor. And in the same way that we talked about finding the key and the loot on the Agama floor, we also have these high dense shard locations that our runners are going to be looking for.
Yeah, and on that note, Will Cleosis has all of the shards. So he is at 32 shards, so just looking for that loot in the key. And unfortunately, when you're looking for a loose item, you can't really change your gameplay style. Like, if you're looking for shards, you can, Fiend Hunt. You can say, all I need to do is find Kraken and Kia, and I will win. Or all I need to do is find Lich, even just for 2 shards. So you can, stop opening chests and just start going down floors. But when you're looking for a loose loot and a loose key, all you can do is just keep opening chests. And unfortunately for Will Cleosis, he is just in the wrong place, and that is something that he has absolutely no control over. I think it's just, whether you went clockwise or counterclockwise.
Yeah. And I like that you point that out, because really that's a design of this flag set. This particular flag set does not have any of our progression items as incentive items. Every single one of those items is going to be loose. And personally, I kind of like this when it comes to card hunt. Again, it's got to be hard for Wilkliosis having full shards and really just not knowing where to go next. For someone like SVJ or Rubes, is going to have that opportunity to, the second they pick up that last shard, exit out and then head directly to Topher.
Yeah, there's one chest in this game that has the loot, and one chest in this game that has the key. But there are many chests that have shards, so therefore which location you're in doesn't matter as much. And I think based off the fantastic, like, holy smokes, excellent entrance floor tracking notes that our tracker Reese is taking, I think it's Crescent Lake, which is where Wilkliosis hasn't gone, which is a little bit surprising to me. So either he just skipped it or just doesn't like the location. Yeah, that's not a good sign. I was hoping it was like, obviously it wasn't our deals because some other runners have gone there, but that's what you want to hope, where it's somewhere on the end of the checklist. But like Crescent Lake is not something that's really too on the end of the checklist. It's just something that you might not go to.
It's funny because in running a lot of these floor entrance shuffles, note taking and clarification in your notes ends up being very important, but it's also sometimes important to kind of step back, take a deep breath, and look at your notes and find out where you haven't been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had at least one run, I think it was against you in Burt, where we hit every single entrance in the entire game, completely forgot that we didn't dive Canaria Castle. It was Canaria Castle, the very first check that you could make, had the one item that we needed for progression. So it might be as simple as, oh no, I just simply forgot that one location in the midst of diving Elflin to Elflin Castle to Volcano up to Ice. Just forgot to take that one tiny little detour.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to note, Darren Dries also sent Hooray Dwarf home to his family, as that's a euphemism if I've ever heard one. So, got to give props where props are due. Unfortunately, Wilkliosis finds the marsh split. This is the absolute worst thing you want to see him find, is this is just not leading him in the right direction. And just, unfortunately, that Tia is completely and utterly useless.
Yeah.
Worst 4 shards. Oops, don't need any shards.
I mean, you could see the pause in Wilkliosis to think, do I want to spend not the time to get the shards, but maybe some of those levels on some of those high experience enemies, maybe even hoping for an early war mech and hoping that war mech doesn't have anything that's really potent. But yeah, Wilkliosis might end up finding himself in a deep cave that is not going to benefit him whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to tempt the War Mech God with 300% clamped, but especially because I know that I believe all of our runners, maybe not Darren Dries, but everyone else has seen the sandwiches on in Ice, so that's something of note. Now, as we kind of hit this point where Saint SVJ, I believe, is just on cleanup duty before he'll be entering Temple of Fiends Revisit, I did want to quickly do a recap here as we are over the 1 hour mark. So for those of you who have tuned in the last, 20-30 minutes, I'm Jat2980. I'm joined in the booth here by my co-coms DVS. We have Reese Wolf tracking today, doing a fantastic job, doing a 4-person entrance floor shuffle with notes, with all the items, everything. So just, big props. And we have Dangwoo on the restream. What you are watching today is our Randomania weekly race, and we have 5 runners. We have SciTown running off stream, who are all racing a different flag set pretty much every week. And this week we have something funny. We have an entrance floor town shuffle with item magic turned on with reasonable scaling and 2 force. So we had a force thief and a force black mage. You'll see all the runners are kind of diving all over the place trying to figure out what they're looking for. Now, critically, we do not have short Topher on, which means that what these runners are looking to win the game is the key and the loot. And in this case, the 2 runners on the left have found that, and the 2 runners on the right have not. However, Wilkliosis just entered the right entrance, and that is huge for him. So he may be one of our first runners in Topher. Now, The only other thing I want to note is that they have found a nuke shirt, they have found 3 Masamoons, they have found 5 ribbons, and a wall hammer. So, you know, you're welcome for rolling the seed. Now, to kind of note where we are in terms of being ready to go, SVJ is pretty much SVJ is pretty much ready to enter Temple of Fiends Revisited, but may want a few levels, though that fighter is looking pretty good. Meanwhile, Wilcleosis has had enough shards for forever, but looking for the key and the loot. Meanwhile, Rube's looking for a few more shards, and Darren is looking for a little bit of everything. So we will be seeing these runners entering 300% clamped, which means 100% to 300% difficulty, or 1 to 3 times ribbon, 1 to 3 times difficulty Temple of Fiends Revisited very soon here. So, you know, tune in, figure out what's happening next. As you can see, Rubes is getting very close.
I think we're about to see Wilcleosis find really the honeypot of this entire scene, just this top left floor in Agama. Finding the loot, I'm sure he's ecstatic. But just wait a few more seconds, and he'll find the next wonderful little chest in that room. And it looks like, with SVJ and Rubes, they definitely need those shards. And I'm wondering if they're hitting the point of where do we... right, and a Massa in that particular room. And there's the key. That puts Wilcleosis in go mode, and I would not be surprised to see Wilcleosis sit back, think about, okay, what levels do I have? What do I need to buy? And how can I get to Topher the absolute fastest way possible? And it does look like Rubes has found the Bridge of Destiny. I don't know if this is his first dive on that or second dive on that, but that's a quick 4 shards for him. In terms of this late game, 4 shards ends up being a lot. And picking up a Wormek fight. And it looks like they are planning on fighting this Wormek, preparing a bunch of nukes. Viz 2, which I think was a very, very smart move, and throwing out that black belt to try to do some additional damage. And it looks like 180 damage from 7 hits from a Massa is not what you want to see.
Now, I did want to point out, SVJ actually found a really nice grind tile here. He found Agamas in Topher locked, and Wilcleosis checking it as well. How did what? They couldn't have known. This is not a shared spike tile. They just... I guess they were like, hey, I'm just going to check a couple spike tiles, and Temple of Fiends is close by, but holy smokes. Like,
that's exactly what you want to find before diving in. And we'll see, like, I'm kind of curious how Wilcleosis is going to approach this. It very, very wisely has the nuke shirt on that black belt. And we'll see how long it takes to allow him to down that red mage and that black mage for really focusing all of that experience on that black belt.
Oh, and Rubes gets through Wormek with just the black belt up, and the black belt hits level 29. So that is pretty nice. Now, one thing I don't like here is that, he got away, but you usually just want to, if you only are fighting 2 enemies, you're usually better off just punching them dead, or nuke shirting them dead, rather than trying to run with the black belt at level 29. If you ever watch people's solo black belt runs, that's definitely something that you can pick up from there. Now, something I did want to point out about the kind of downside of this Agama grind is you saw earlier that Rubes very smartly used the ice tiles to get his party members down to low HP. It's actually going to be very, very difficult for Wilcleosis to get down to a solo grind here. So I don't even know if he's going to bother trying. He might just hit 32 with all party members and just go for it, because at 32 shards, that at plus 100% experience, and this is already 2.5 times plus 200 or 250 scaling, so getting those levels are not going to be that difficult.
And it looks like Rubes decided to go with the damage strats in throwing out that nuke shirt. But it appears that Kraken had Sleep Touch, put that Black Mage to sleep, and then just eat it in one punch. So Rubes has to decide, am I going to go re-dive that? Am I going to risk taking that Wormek that took out 3 of the party? Or am I going to go elsewhere to try to find some additional shards?
Yeah, and you can see him debating here. I mean, he is only 8 shards away, so those 4 shards are very tempting. But I believe we're going to see our first runner enter Temple of Fiends Revisited proper. As SVJ, it looks like making his final preparations, and then we'll be ready to go. Meanwhile, Wilkliosis just continues this grind, which, you know what, 300% clamp bosses are no joke.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to risk it. Again, we've alluded to a little bit the amount of pain that Kraken tends to cause, but Kraken 2 can be so much worse, especially because you're looking at, I guess, 2,700 experience that Kraken 2 or HP that Kraken 2 can have, and the fact that Kraken 2 can one punch most endgame characters. You've got to know that you're prepared, not just in offense but also in defense. So
Yeah.
we'll see if it ends up that Wilkliosis' prep in terms of gaining these levels is going to serve him well, or if taking the risk at a low level dive is actually going to be what gets the win.
Yeah, and actually, I just noticed that SVJ is actually quite a few shards short. I thought he was way higher. I thought he was above Rubes for most of the game, but he's actually a little bit behind. I wonder if the strategy here is just to shift to try and get some levels and then go finish the dives, to, like, you know, so he can safely kill the remainder of the fiends. But SVJ has a lot of dungeon diving left to do. Well, meanwhile, Wilkliosis, just, you know, in many ways, Wilkliosis cleared a lot of entrances, and in doing so, he just did them faster because he eventually got to the loot and the key, and because of just the fact he had cleared so many more, just, you know, a nice solid lead at this point.
And a couple point outs in chat in terms of it is important. Like, you find a good tile, you take some time to grind it. There's no guarantee that that's actually the best grind tile for you. And you noticed, Wilkliosis going over to Northwest Castle and checking out those grind tiles. So Agamas are a great tile, but it's not because of their phenomenal experience. It's because they have decent experience with lower health. So, Wilkliosis is making the decision, hey, there could be an Iron Gall tile out there, there could be a Red D tile out there that could give me substantially more experience for the amount of effort that I'm putting into this. I really like the decision to go out and check a couple additional grind tiles. The risk of losing a little bit of time here, hoping that we might find something that is the perfect grind tile for him pre-Topher dive.
Yeah, and I also Rubes back onto Kraken and Tiamat's room, and I like the adjustment going straight to Brax. But one thing that I didn't love is the fact that he moved his primary win condition in the Brat cast to the front row, so he's down to only a single Brat cast per turn, but doesn't get punished. But in that case, I actually don't mind at all my black belt getting punched out, especially if the black belt's just doing nuke shirts, because nuke shirts aren't going to win. If anything, you can even have the black belt be casting things like the fog something. We found a fog item, because nukes just aren't going to get it done. Your win condition there is Brack, so you kind of want to go all in on that. So, just small adjustments, and these are things that are really different because, we've been used to running much easier flag sets. Even the hardest flag set of the Duckling Derby was much easier than 100% to 300% clamp bosses. So
I do think that's a good point, because these flags were originally created with the idea of Dog, our previous Duckling Supreme, facing off against Link-a-Lot, or Sir Link-a-Lot, who won our Duckling Derby this year. So there was this desire to take these particular flags to the next level and make it that much more difficult. So, we are seeing something that is one dynamic step above what we would have seen in the Duckling Derby. Wilkliosis is a very experienced runner who's been through spring tournaments in the past. Really just showing a little bit about what that experience mean in terms of these high percent clamp bosses. And it looks like Wilkliosis has decided that now is the time. He is ready to take this Topher dive, and we'll see how well this goes for him.
Yeah, I think if anything, practicing for the co-op flag sets, which, as I mentioned before, signups close July 15th, so if you're interested in that, come on and join. Yeah, practicing for the co-op flag set is actually what you want for this, is it gives you a pretty good idea of how difficult these bosses are going to be and kind of the preparation you need to make.
I believe we're at, like, what is it, 320% clamped or something like that on bosses. That really, it drastically changes the way that you play. It's been interesting in the Duck Derby going back to only, quote unquote, only 180% clamped. And seeing from a very different perspective, especially if you are a duckling that was part of the Duck Derby, you're looking to improve, trying to figure out how do I take a couple minutes off of my time. I highly suggest getting into the Iron Gall tournament. I highly suggest the challenge flags that we set out every week. Every week you'll notice that in our community you'll have the Async weekly, you'll have the challenge weekly, you'll have the Duck weekly. Highly recommend the challenge flags, because those are really what's going to cause you to get to a moment where you are freaking out. You have no idea what's going on. You've been on the seed for 3 hours, and it's going to force you to think about how to be a better runner, and that's going to help you on even some of these faster, quote-unquote, easy.
Yeah, and shout-outs to Gouda for making this particular flag in chat, so yeah, big props there. And okay, Wilkliosis exiting out looks like did not like the level situation, so gonna be diving back down later.
And it does look like Rubes is getting pretty close to their shard count, and I believe there's a couple down here in this earth floor. So you might see Rubes making their trek out to Temple of Fiends. Oh, actually, you know what? Rubes just picked up their very last shard. Rubes 000 and Wilkliosis are two runners that are in complete go mode at the moment. Not quite sure what Rubes is looking for. It appears that they just realized that they actually are in go mode and they can start heading down to Temple of Fiends whenever they want. Now it's the decision of, hey, do I level up or do I just take the dive?
I think Rubes was looking for promotion. Either that or he found it earlier and didn't realize that the black belt flag was on. So was like holding off from promoting until his black belt got levels, which would be a kind of unfortunate mistake. But that's kind of, I think, the last thing that Rubes is looking for.
And, that being said, we do have SVJ, who is on their way over to Dwarf Cave and is going to be checking our chest down here in Dwarf Cave. With the potential of having some extra shards. I didn't find out earlier how many actual shards or what other items are in there. But we are getting to that point where our runnings are starting to converge, and some of our runners who might have done an early leveling might now actually be catching up to Wilkliosis as Wilkliosis takes their late game leveling.
Yeah, so Rubes has decided that sandwiches are the way to go. So gonna be going there. This does once again have the advantage of allowing him to take a solo black belt, but it has the disadvantage of actually being worth less EXP than that quad Agama fight. Now, I do hope that after he gets a few levels on like that thief, if actually the thief doesn't even matter if he's not going to promote, but I do hope that, this could be an opportunity to run a slightly different strategy than what Wilkliosis is doing. Wilkliosis is getting 4 party members up to like 30, and then kind of his top level party members up to 35, but Rubes could do the alternative. He could take his party members to 24 or 25, and then take the black belt to 42. And that can really make the difference, as those extra hits with fast, it's an extra 4 hits, could mean that each fiend gets 1 less turn, which means each fiend gets 1 less opportunity to cast nuke or punch down your life caster.
And it's these subtle little decisions and really risk taking that defines who's going to win this match. You especially when you're coming into some of these competitive tournaments where you have really seconds that define first place versus second place. I mean, you look at our spring tournament championship. It was an Iron Gall fight. Very end of the game at the end of Topher that caught up crab cakes and got her into second place. It's that close. It's gonna happen, or that could happen with these tiny little decisions throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, speaking of that close, SVJ just picked up his last 2 orbs, so he is now also in go mode. He has done a grind, though not to like the same extent that say Wilkliosis is doing here. So we'll have to see what their decision point is. And meanwhile, Rubes is doing exactly that strategy, taking down his levels on taking down the HP on his non-black belt party members, and is going to be bringing that black belt much higher. So we're seeing a lot of different strategies here, and we're going to have to see which one pans out best throughout this, what could be a very, very difficult Temple of Fiends Revisited.
And I just to talk about what SVJ is doing right now, you can see SVJ traveling to quote unquote random entrances around the world. That they're doing their magic check. Saw them pick up some additional magic to prepare for their late game. Looks like SVJ might be doing the exact same grind tile that Rubes is doing.
Yeah.
Well, Wigliosis has backed out of Temple of Fiends, and it looks like picking up some additional magic. I don't know if they're also looking for some extra items just for this last dive into Topher.
I think they just want stuff for their ninja, yeah. They just want Nuke and Lock for their ninja there, and then they should be good to go. I think SVJ also selected this Ice Tile grind because he may want to put extra levels exclusively on a few of his characters, but we'll have to see what the plan is. Because this, going down here, I don't think is any faster than the Agamas, but is further away, but it does give the benefit that you can Dan party members if you want to.
That's true. That is true. And it looks like Wigliosis is going right back to that Agama grind.
Yeah.
It seems like he knows of the 300% clamped, knows how difficult it could be down there, and wants to make sure that they're fully prepared to do a 1-for-1 dive. And if he noticed that at level, high 20s, that he was getting one shot by some of the just normal enemies, understand that he would want to make sure he's up at that 40 range or high 30s party members before doing a deep dive.
Now, I'm not sure, and maybe someone in chat noticed, but I believe there was life at both level 5 and level 6. And unless it was in slot 1 in Crescent Lake, he should have life available. That's the only reason, the only other consideration. I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't decided to go dive yet, considering the level of his party, but like at the worst, you're going to get some experience, or it's not experience, some knowledge about what's waiting for you there. But this has been quite a long time spent grinding.
Yeah, and I want to say that this also is a shout out to experience. I know for myself as a new runner, it was the moment I'm allowed to dive into Topher, I have to dive Topher regardless of what's going on. That would end up with me doing 3, 4, 5 different dives into Topher before realizing I might need to level. And it takes an unbelievable amount of patience to make the decision that I am going to do a 10-minute grind as opposed to doing 10 minutes of potentially failed Topher dives. So, it'll be interesting if this plays out for him. Again, Rubes and SVJ are both doing their particular grinds. And again, who knows which particular move is going to be the best move until we actually start diving Topher and see what these runners do.
So we see a third strategy in our top left here. So what SVJ has done is went to the Ice Cave, brought down all the HP on his characters, and then is coming here for a solo fighter grind on the Agamo tile. So you can see all the different strategies you can get to grind, as this grind to a high level on just his fighter is going to be a lot faster because of the fact that he's going to just have a single character up. But he's not going to have the levels across the board like Wigliosis will.
And it's a very interesting approach. Again, it's dangerous too, because you still have the chance of an Agama doing a critical hit. It looks like SVJ has so much long armor and HP on that fighter. It's a little bit safer than what we might have seen earlier when Rubes was doing their black belt grind. I really like this move right here where SVJ decided to back out of Topher to do a quick safety save before diving back in with that solo fighter. The last thing that you want is to have those 5 or 6 minutes of prep to be completely erased, having your fighter get a expected down.
One adjustment Rubes needs to make in the bottom left here is moving his black belt out of the first slot, as these sandworms will start running pretty soon. It looks like he gets ambushes, which is good, but you really don't want the sandworms to run, as it can, exactly like that. It can really slow down your grind. And as long as you have anyone else in the first slot, he should be totally fine here. Especially considering this thief is like level 15 or something really low. Wigliosis still not done with this grind. I think the 40 to 41 on the black belt is the area that he's going for, but this has taken a very long time just because of the fact he's had all 4 party members up. Now, this will make a very safe dive compared to most of the other runners, so it is likely that Wilcleosis will still be the first one entering Temple of Fiends Revisited and probably the first one through Temple of Fiends Revisited at this point, assuming things go well, but this has given the other runners an opportunity. If you went for like a solo grind like Rubes is doing, for example, it could have been a little bit faster.
Well, it looks like Rubes just made the decision to put that black belt in the second slot, move that fighter up to first, and you can already notice that very consistent sandworms at this point, where these sandworms are more willing to hit the black belt as opposed to just run away immediately.
So still different strategies in the top 3. And meanwhile, Darren Dry's continuing to kind of go around, found the loot and the key, and is just getting the last few shards here. So we will see our 4th runner in go mode very shortly.
It's amazing to watch a seed like this with so many different runners start to converge. I mean, we've been running for about an hour and a half now, and throughout this whole thing, it was, hey, Wilcleosis looks like they're far into the front. Looks like, SVJ and Rubes are about the same place, but trying to catch up. And now we're hitting the point where essentially everyone's getting very, very close to one of these Topher dives. It looks like Darendrees found a Saria tile. And actually, Saria grind tiles are by far one of my favorite because you get very similar to Agama's, except you're going to get far more experience from each one. And it looks like Wilcleosis has finally made the decision. He's ready to go. And now let's do this Topher dive.
Meanwhile, Psytown actually off stream, just to kind of highlight something that's interesting, has found a quad gas G grind off of, it appears like the first 2 encounters in the power in the encounter table. So taking yet another approach to how to prepare for Temple of Fiends Revisited. So he is in a very similar situation, has all the shards he needs, and his party's around level 25. So just, to kind of give just all the different ways, and I think a lot of the reason why many people love this game is just how many different ways there are to play, as Rubes has a level 42 black belt.
And we do have Wilcleosis making the decision to take this Chimera and Chimera fight to try to get that 1 or 2 extra levels, only to get that black belt just that little bit close. Oh, it's unrunnable. You can see that. But also getting that black belt a little bit close.
Okay, and here we go. Oh goodness, Wilcleosis, please move your heal pots to the right spot. But is going to be the first one onto the Lich floor in 1 floor here.
It looks like Darendrees has made the decision to stay on the Sardia tile, similar in the same way how Rubes and Wilcleosis chose that. SVJ and Wilcleosis chose that Agama tile. But Wilcleosis is making some good progress down here in Topher, and it looks like SVJ is getting to the point where they feel like they've got enough of this heal pots, got enough of everything that they need. But actually, it looks like SVJ is trying to figure out if they can get rid of something in order to get those heal pots in the right spot, and again, deciding to do that Agama grind still.
Yeah, I think he just wants a few more levels on his entire party. Meanwhile, I believe Rubes is just about to dive Temple of Fiends Revisited, so entering just a few minutes after Wilcleosis, after he, stocks up on a few more spells here. And here we go, Wilcleosis on the Lich floor. Now, Lich, vanilla, Lich 2, vanilla 500 HP, maxing out at 1500 here should not cause any problems whatsoever. Maybe a nuke, but not a big deal.
I was going to say, you still have to give some respect to Lich. I believe in the vanilla game, Lich starts off with that nuke cast in the first round. And you never know what some of these fiends are gonna throw out. Fortunately, our runners have a plethora of ribbons to choose from. There's always that rare case, for example, Tornado coming out, which is, I believe, non-elemental, doing damage to every single one of these light warriors. You always have to be prepared. There's no such thing as an easy fiend when it comes to Temple of Fiends Revisited. There's always a chance to get a zap, a bane, swirl, tornado, nuclear. Any one of these different spells could end up meaning disaster for your party if you do not respect them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like a zap through a ribbon on this red mage or red wizard could absolutely end Wilkliosis's run. And yeah, our tracker Reese again coming through saying that Rubes entered Temple of Fiends Revisited about 3 minutes after Wilkliosis. So pretty close at the moment. We'll have to see. Carrie can punch very hard, and if they decide to back row that red wizard like that, can be a little bit terrifying. But remember, the one difference between for all these runners is that they all have only a single life caster. So that red wizard is only a 12.5% chance to get punched. But oh man, every single level counted there for Wilkliosis, and that levels across the board, making a big difference.
And it gets to be terrifying when you start seeing those punches come out towards those red wizards. You're just praying that your gold 4 bracelet's good enough to keep them alive with these 300 clamps. Again, when you're running clamp sets, it could be that you just have the vanilla version, or it could be you have the version that's 3 times strong. I believe that this is the first time we're going to be seeing Kraken 2 on Wilkliosis' side. And personally, I find that Kraken 2 causes more anxiety for me than chaos in most of these runs, especially when you have things like this high level, this 3+ level black belt. You've got Invis, you've got nuke shirts, all of these other things that are going to be nice for you. This is going to be the fight, I think.
Well, critically, he only has a single Invis caster. Because there's only one white magic, and there's no white shirt, there's no defense sword. So getting up Invis is very, very difficult. So this Kraken could just one-shot anyone on this team. If you go speed and power, though, it's dangerous. It's going to be really difficult to one-shot or two-round at least 900 health Kraken with clamp stats, because they could be very high evade, very high absorb, all sorts of different problems.
Yeah, what I imagine you'll see Wilkliosis put that black belt, very low down. I like the decision to put the red mage in 4th slot as opposed to 3rd slot. I think you're going to see some fast come out very quick onto that black belt with some quick punches, probably complementing with some nukes. Just praying that there's enough damage to go out to take out that Kraken before it has a chance to hit that red mage or that black belt. And we'll see how this goes. That fast coming out, it looks like lock 2, which is a great decision from that black belt. Sorry, from that black mage. The black belt going back from attacks, and it looks like the red mage is going to be casting Invis 2. Oh, and it missed. The black belt missed. That means that Kraken 2 has to have incredibly high evade, and we're going to have to see how Wilkliosis responds to this. We have another Lock 2 coming out. I think Lock 2, again, it's one of those spells that... And there goes the Black Mage who had that Lock 2 cast. I really like this decision. Go with the Invis 2, to go with the Lock 2. You have to have that black belt land those hits, or you're going to be in deep trouble. I like the decision of pivoting to Fog, which is going to give some added defense to all of the light warriors. And that red mage taking about 440 damage, which puts it into critical state. This next round might be the determiner about whether or not Wilkliosis moves forward. You've got the Fog 2, you've got Lock coming out, and you've got that black belt punch. Black belt not enough. Great for Wilkliosis that Kraken chose the ninja to hit. The Lock 2 goes down. We have fight, and a nuke cast. It looks like he's going all out, praying for enough damage. You've got 1 damage from the ninja, a ton of damage from the black belt, but not enough. A nuke, which isn't enough, and a fast cast on Kraken. Fast is what you want to see right now, and there goes Kraken. Because of that fast cast, because it wasted that turn, giving itself a buff, Wilkliosis is able to take down Kraken 2, and that speed bump is passed, and you're going to see Wilkliosis start tearing towards Tiamat 2, and you'll probably see him make Kraken within the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, now, one thing I did want to point out is that we're talking a lot about Invis here. A critical spell right now is actually the fact that SVJ has Ruse on his Knight. because that's going to let him get 3 stacks of evade onto that knight, 3 out of a possible 6 on round 1. So that is a big difference compared to a lot of the other runners, and that will allow him to do things like keep the fighter in the second slot, and then let the fighter take a few hits after, let's say, his thief goes down in the first turn. So that is something to be aware of, and here we go. Wait, what? What just happened? Was there a turn 1 nuke or something on Tiamat?
No, based on what chat's saying and what I'm seeing here, it appears that Wilkliosis might not have enough heal pots. It looks like that might have been an oversight on their part to decide not to max out on heal pots and making the decision that that red mage might be destined to hit the ground, or maybe they're just hoping for the fact to cast Life 2. Yeah, it looks like Sir Linkle pointing out in chat that he only has less than 20 heal pots left. If I was Wilkliosis, I'd be nervous. I think that the black belt and that red mage with the Massa is going to be more than enough. So if Wilkliosis has Life 2 that's available, or even Life, it's still going to give you probably 1 or 2 extra rounds against Chaos. But this heal pot allocation, yeah, it looks like Wilkliosis is casting Life on those 2 party members in hopes that they're just going to take one punch from Tia, or have that one round where they're able to cast a buff spell. It's going to be a tense chaos fight for Wilkliosis.
Yeah, now while we were speaking, Rubes unfortunately did wipe on that absolutely terrifying Kraken fight, and is deciding to redive with minor adjustments. Meanwhile, SVJ making their way through Temple of Fiends after getting through carry. So we have a Chaos fight going on your bottom right, we have a War Mech fight going on in your top left, and we're soon to have a Kraken fight going on in your top left. So keep your eyes peeled to all screens. But here we go. Wilkliosis taking on Chaos himself, starts off with a fast, gets fantastic turn order, and that's great too. Chaos only punching for 300 damage on that black belt. That's exactly what you want to see turn 1, because you know what? Lit 2 or Lit 3, something normally you're not too bad. When you have 1 HP on your black mage, that is exactly what you want. Is that's going to let him get off some tempers, get off the fast, and get off some locks. Here we go. Lock 2 coming out again. More good turn order and Invis 2. This is looking good for Wilkliosis, although this Chaos could have up to 6,000 HP. Temper goes off. Fantastic turn order here. And we will see what Chaos has in store. Stop. Not something that's too terrifying at all. Turn 3. Here we go. Getting off another lock. Getting off some more tempers. And this black belt in really good shape, as a third cast of Invis 2 may also go off. There we go. Nuclear. Goodbye, rest of the party, and low rolls critically on the Red Wizard. That's exactly what he's looking like. Hitting for 500 damage now. That means unless Chaos has Cure 4, this is going to be over in 7 or so rounds at most. Another nuclear though, that's terrifying, and he does not have Cure 4 available on that black belt. This is going to get tense. 1,000 damage though. He needs turn order. Ink is exactly what he needs. The 2 nuclears coming up, and there we go.
There it goes. An official SRL time of 1 hour, 41 minutes, and 33 seconds. We have Wilkliosis taking down Chaos as our winner of this particular run. GG's to Wilkliosis.
Wow, what a, very kind of not so tense beginning of Chaos fight and exceptionally tense late Chaos fight. So the way that particular Chaos fight went, it gave him time to prepare, but it did not give him so much time to get the job done. So he at least was able to get off the tempers, locks, and had a nice mixture of both temper and lock, which allowed him to get those damage that he needed on the black belt. And luckily Chaos didn't roll absolute max HP. And the other thing was just skill order is going to be very, very, very important. How often Chaos casts skills for the other runners. As we can turn our attention to the top left, is that Chaos is not going to be a joke and could be extremely dangerous to some of our runners. So we'll have to see if anyone else can manage to get through, as SVJ has lost his primary damage dealer but gets through and still has life available. So SVJ in decent shape here and has decent number of heal pots still. So this is looking okay. Another experienced runner, and SVJ once again having that knight with some cure, with some ruse, a big difference here. And here we go, SVJ about to take on Tiamat, while Rubes is struggling to get through carry here. This is probably a reset. Oh yeah, it's definitely a reset, and this is just showing the importance of having levels across the board. This is not duckling scaling. This is 300% clamped. Everything hits hard, and every single level for Wilkliosis mattered.
And you know, let's actually just take a second and reflect back on Wilkliosis in that decision to take the entire party to the high 30s, low 40s, and then let's consider that chaos fight was and how his Temple of Fiends Revisited was. Because even at levels in the high 30s, low 40s, he wound up with one light warrior against chaos at the very end with a very tense conclusion. And again, that goes to show just how that experience with these high clamp sets influences your decision making. And you see the right decision was made in taking that, honestly, like 10 to 15 minutes at least, grind down some of those extra levels and prepare for that fight.
And we are going to be joined in the booth by Wilkliosis. Hello, Wilkliosis. Congratulations and GG.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel?
I don't play much, and it's been quite a long time. I think 2 matches in the last year. One was just for fun. Feels good to get back in the ring a little bit. I think I still got some punches left in me.
Oh, absolutely. And we were just talking, I think, I'm assuming you've been doing a little bit of prep work for the co-op tournament. And I think that really showed here, as you knew how to approach these clamp flags, and you barely squeaked by with, you know, very good, like, high-level party there.
Yeah, that's 300%. That harkens back to the actually original tournament. And with the half black belt crit rate, when I went black belt, had I known there was an Excalibur 5, I would have gone knight. But you have to, in my opinion, at 300, you got to, clamping and all that, you got to get up there. And I guess I showed something that I probably shouldn't have, because I can run a black belt. First time I've ever done that.
Really, that's the absolute first time in, your storied career you've ever run a black belt.
Yes, we were forced one a couple years ago. I played Ikben Maya, and I lost. Never again. No black belts, no white mages. Not a fan.
So you're the one who influenced the co-op tournament design. So you designed an entire tournament to make sure that black belts would be banned.
That was last year.
So yeah, we'll go through your seed in a little bit more details. I think it might be a little while before some of our runners are finishing it. This is an extremely tough Temple of Fiends Revisited, but we are about to see SVJ take on Chaos. So I'll pass it over to, actually, we could pass it over to you, Wilkliosis, but we'll pass it over to DVS to take this Chaos fight here.
Give it to us, DVS. Give us a will.
Absolutely. Well, I love the fact that SVJ is taking the time to really prepare before going into this Chaos fight. Especially when you're diving into Temple of Fiends and you're hitting that late game, one of the things you can do is just get that intense emotion after Tiamat 2 and dive directly into Chaos without taking the time to slow down, make sure that you have one of your 7 ribbons on all of your light warriors, you have your masses in the right spot, that you have the nuke shirt in the right spot, you got your fog gauntlet in the right spot, and you are 100% ready for this Chaos fight. So I appreciate SVJ taking the time to really think through their approach, think through how they're going to take this Chaos fight in light of the difficulty of the Kraken 2 fight, as well as a lot of the other difficulties that you all have run into this seed. It looks like he's almost ready to go, making those final adjustments, and doing one final check before diving into this Chaos fight. So here we go. We have SVJ taking on Chaos. Looks like we have Ninja Fighter on those top 2 spots, which might end up being a mistake if Chaos decides to hit them early. And a quick nuclear out front. We didn't see this till later in the game with Wilkliosis, but a quick nuclear at the beginning. We have Invis 2s. We have Temper, Ruse, which is a great call for that fighter, and you have the fast coming out. So really just focusing on that fighter for this fight. More Invis 2, looks like more Tempers coming out, really preparing for the end of this fight, hoping that Chaos is going to end up punching. We know that Chaos has at least one more nuclear, and we're going to see if that ends up coming into play here with number of hits for 500 damage. That's going to do okay for right now, but really it's just a matter of how long is it going to take Chaos to throw that other nuclear out, because that nuclear is probably going to take care of both the ninja and the black mage. We have 4 hits, and there it goes. The nuclear coming out. The ninja still survives, but the black wizard goes down. We have an Expert that comes out that actually hits, which puts Chaos at defenseless, so that could give some additional damage to Chaos from these light warriors. It looks like that fighter in that last attack missed a number of the spots, missed from Chaos because of a lot of those Invis 2s. Looks like we have Brack strats coming out, more attacks from that knight. Cure 2 coming out on that fighter, which I think is a great decision based on the magic that we've seen coming out of this Chaos so far. Looks like we're getting up to 700 in a high blaze that takes down that ninja and puts that red mage into critical condition. Red mage going to Bane strats with that knight still attacking. It looks like we have SVJ hoping that Chaos is going to continue to punch as opposed to having some more magic. We actually don't know if Chaos would have something like a swirl or Cure 4. And SVJ's got to be hoping that he can just put out damage to Chaos, still be able to win. We've got a couple hundred HP. We've got a Cure 2 coming out, trying to put some additional HP on G. We've got another Bane coming out. I feel like you'd want to put some more hit points on that knight because Chaos still could get a couple hits in. A Fire 3 coming out that's still wearing on that red wizard. Another Bane, another attack, 700 damage, and there goes down Chaos. SVJ coming in second place with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and seconds. Let's get some GGs out for SVJ in chat. A very well done, well calculated Chaos fight.
So yeah, GG's, and yeah, so that Exfer actually is making it defenseless. It removes its resistances, which is going to be what increased Bane and Brack's chances to hit. So he was up to about a 6% chance for Brack to hit, and I believe around a 3% chance for Bane to hit. So pretty low odds, but he got there with the damages. The Red Mage didn't have much else to offer in the way of healing. So anyways, let's pass it back over to Wilkliosis. So throughout this seed, you actually took quite a different not approach, but just the way that your routing ended up. You had very different decisions. You were by far our first runner with 32 shards, but then you were unfortunately looking for that key and the loot. So when you finally found it in Crescent Lake, how many entrances did you have remaining at that point?
I think it was the last location, I believe. Let me double check. The only thing I have marked is Crescent Lake as unknown. And yeah, I last locationed it. That is correct.
Yeah, so just the fact that you were able to go through all those entrances that quickly really showed that your supposed rust is all lies, and we should all be very worried about your particular team in the co-op tournament. But you did, that. And then can you kind of talk me through what preparation? You don't have to give away all your co-op strats, but what was your kind of preparation mindset going into Temple of Fiends Revisited? Was it a number? Was it a burn until I'm out of spell charges? Everyone has a little bit different way of looking at it, but what were you trying to do before you took that dive?
That first dive was real, and then I left, and the chimeras and the chimeras were bashing me, and that told me right then and there I'm not ready.
That was real.
Yeah, that was real. That was a real dive. Absolutely. 32. Pretty classic. I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. I feel pretty good about it. And when I hit the chimeras and the chimeras, I was like, okay, well, I am not ready here. I need to reassess. And then, I'm like, what, it's 30%? And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna take the time to do what it was I did. I took 20 minutes. DBS. I mean, that's way too long. But I believe that's what it was that it needed. This was a fighter seed. Bruise, Excalibur 5. This is a fighter seed, not a black belt seed. No question in my mind. As far as your question about preparation for the co-op tournament, this is great. I am coming back. I am in it. I think we're the first team to sign up. We are the Game Changers. Myself, of course, Falconic. We played last year as well. And it's really just for fun. But I'm going to tell you this right now, and I can speak to Falconic on this one. We want that title.
Oh, yeah.
We're taking that title, yes.
I was going to say, you guys definitely have a shot at that title. I know both of you have been in this the community for a long time, very established runners.
And as you
Yeah.
said, you don't have to play black belts, so fantastic.
Yeah.
And we are joined in the booth by our second place overall finisher, Saint Von Jester, or SVJ. GG's.
Hey, thanks, man. Thank you very much. Team Vorpal represent, man.
Yes, the two runners with Vorpals in the bottom right of their screen, showing everyone how it's done. Although there was not a Vorpal to be seen, there was only 3 Mosses and 7 ribbons, but no Vorpal.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. Well, the XCal 5 did its job.
Yeah, so we were kind of just talking about Wilkliosis, kind of 2 stages of the seed. One was that he was very fast, going through all the entrances, clearing out all the floors, getting all the shards. So he was, the first in that. But then he took almost 20 minutes to kind of grind for Temple of Fiends Revisited. So, maybe we'll talk about that Chaos fight in a little bit. But why don't we start with kind of your approach for Temple of Fiends Revisited? What were you looking at? Were you feeling good? Talk me through your kind of thought process as you hit go mode and what you were planning from that point onwards.
So I only had Cure 2 and Heal 2 for heal spells and 99 potions. I'm not a big fan of being, heal locked in any sort of game, regardless if it's life or cure spells or things like that. So I like to make sure that I'm well prepared just in case that happens. And I feel like it's a double-edged sword where if you level a fighter or black belt to high levels, now they have 700, 800 hit points, and you're burning heal potion after heal potion after heal potion, getting them back up to the 800 so they don't get nuked down or anything like that. So, with 300% clamped bosses, I did not know what any boss was like, and I ran into Tia real early, and she decided that she wanted to eat all 4 of my Light Warriors for breakfast, so I had to make sure that I was well prepared for that. I got that X-Fur off later, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I was well prepared. I was looking for anything other than Agamas because they had stun touch.
Mhm.
But I didn't find any, dragons, or I found the red dragons, but they just no buenos there. They just hurt. So
Yeah. I mean, the sandwiches was like kind of there as well, but not really much better than the 4 Agamas. So not a fantastic grind, but you were the only runner on stream to be running that fighter as opposed to the black belt. And as Wilkliosis pointed out, it was a good but not great red mage seed, but it was a very good fighter seed.
Yeah, I mean, I found a lot of good fighter weapons. I found a lot of good fighter armor. Steel 5 really carried my fighter through that. I forgot I had Invis 2 there for a while, so a lot of deaths happened that shouldn't have happened. Black belts, I'm not a big fan of black belts. I know why everyone takes them, because you could walk through Temple of Fiends and just 2-punch every boss, especially at 300% clamped bosses. But I played Seeds with Wilkliosis, with Falconic, with Czar, with Shofukumachi, with Shadow Walker, Edgeworth, things like Moist Mogwai, where it's just like you have 500% clamp bosses, no black belt, and you gotta sit there and grind all day. So I was kind of just in that mentality, like, I'm gonna take this fighter, I'm gonna make sure that he can suck up any hit, especially since I had 3 nuke casters as well as a nuke 1 shirt, and I was just like, I just walk up. I was gonna take that nuke shirt on that fighter, but it's like, no, it's not going to. Anyway.
Yeah, so Wilkliosis, why don't you talk about your heal pot situation near the end of Temple of Fiends Revisited?
What heal pots?
Yes.
I had 15.
I ran out before Tiamat 2. All I had was Cure 3. Tiamat 1 got me twice. I didn't want to burn them. That was also what was happening with the Chimeras and the Chimeras. I went ahead and hard reset again, thought I could get away with it. I didn't. I burned so much there, and I knew I was in trouble. There was a point where I paused when I was at 48 or 49, and I paused. If you caught it, I was gonna leave again. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I want to find out exactly what it is. Is Kraken a pushover? Is Tiamat a pushover? One of those bosses is guaranteed to have a top evasion, a top absorb, at least one. So I have to be prepared for that. And, whether it's throwing out heal pots or doing this or that, I felt pretty good about the fast and the lock situation that I could be able to adjust. But I definitely wanted the information. I didn't think I was going to make it. And obviously, as SVJ said, you walk through punching. Well, I kneel through punching. But yeah, in Viz 2, this was definitely a fighter seed. I really wish I would have taken one. The Steel 5, in Viz 2, I think was learnable as 2. The Ruse.
Red Mage, yeah, it was Red Mage learnable.
But
Yeah.
the Ruse was critically fighter or knight learnable, and that was a
Yes!
huge thing.
Yeah, and to clarify, so everyone knows, Xfer is a little confusing. Xfer removes the immunities of a boss. It doesn't challenge their M defense or alter that at all. So what happens with Xfer is you remove their immunities. In this case, the stone poison element. Bane will still be the same, 3 and 256. But Brack is the one that moves up to 6%. Also Mute. Mute will move up to 6% as well. So if you're looking, and it will of course make normal damage from elemental spells. Your Lightning 2, Ice 3, that sort of stuff will make more normal damage because it reduces and takes away the resistances that a fiend or enemy will have if it hits.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's
goes
an
to show
excellent.
that you know, some of us still have a lot to learn as young ducklings ourselves. I mean, I think it goes off to show how much experience it comes into play, especially with like, and for like that I didn't know. You know, SVJ throwing out that X for early to increase the probability of hits of some of those Brack casts.
Yeah, I was trying.
Yeah, I mean,
I tried.
I mean, it's great to be able to pivot to that though. Like, you know, making the decision of I have the plan for this particular strategy. If everything just starts to go wrong, should I pivot to a new strategy or should I continue doing the same thing? And it definitely paid off for the both of you.
That duckling program. Now, so whoever started that is a wonderful person. Let me tell you. It's really great. I saw the turnout recently. You know, over a dozen individuals that joining and want to play. That is the best program that any video game community group or anyone else ever has. That is #1, and that is awesome. And the continuation from Moist Mogwai into I believe it's Gregory Puff now. Keep it going because that is special for Final Fantasy Randomizer the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will quickly turn our attention back over to the broadcast here as we see Rubes about to take on his previous Bane, Kraken. And do you see what I see here with that black belt DVS?
Not at, oh wait, hold on. Is that not? I see 999 in terms of
Yep.
max health. Is that a level 50 black belt?
We have the level 50 black belt on screen. Rubes has decided he's done messing around. He is ready to go take out Kraken here. Sacrificial Thief has been moved to the front row, and this black belt is ready to rumble.
And Rubes has had some interesting difficulties with grinding early, with trying to get some early solo black belt grinds that wound up him wiping the party. So we'll see if that level 50 black belt ends up being worth every second of grind that he put into that.
Yeah, now the level 50 black belt doesn't make as big of a difference as those critical 32-42 breakpoints, as he doesn't get additional hits, but he does go up massively in HP, as you can see, and also just is going to get more damage. But oh man, that's an early fast, and you know, we saw that fast come out at almost an ideal time, I would say, for, I don't remember whether it was, I think it was Wilcleosis, or it was like last turn fast, which is honestly perfect. But that early fast is going to mean this Kraken can pretty much one-shot, probably not the black belt, but anyone else.
Yeah, and Rubes has to be very worried about that cast coming out. Ooh, and a nuke cast, which honestly is not the worst thing, considering the high levels and MDef that all these party members are going to have. And it looks like over 1,000 damage from that black belt, and Kraken 2 is still up.
Yeah, Kraken 2 wasn't messing around.
No, not at all. And it looks like with a nuke, Kraken 2 finally goes down for Rubes. And it looks like Rubes is moving on to Tia 2. And now we have the heal pot situation. Let's see, it looks like 31 heal pots left. That black belt is only at about 350, or sorry, I was looking at the thief. But you're definitely going to start running into the problem of, do I have to start managing my heal pots going into that Tia 2 fight and preserving them to get ready for Chaos? Or am I going to max up for Tia 2? Or for Tia 2. And it looks like about 11 heal pots left. Rubes is going into this Tia 2 fight, and we'll see how he does.
Yeah, I think that the play that Wilcleosis made and maybe you can speak a little bit to Wilhelmus or SVJ, with your experience, to kind of say, you know what, TM2 is going to be scary, but I need to just kind of sack a party member to conserve heal pots. So that way, in the future, I can make sure that my critical damage dealer's at max HP against Chaos.
I was
Maybe...
so. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'll wait. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, maybe a better play here, rather than, trying to get maximum safety up for Tiamat, while potentially not being at max HP for Chaos.
Resource management very critical in this particular seed, and if you looked at the flags, you got to start to learn to realize that, especially late in the game. I just wish I would have had the knight. The knight made a huge difference here.
Yeah, I mean that night, I was really happy I kept that knight in the top slot for Kraken 2 because he was able to tank a lot of those hits, so I could just keep getting those nukes off, and because that Excalibur 5 was basically a gigantic noodle compared to what everyone else I'm sure is doing with their black belts. There's a lot of SVJs in there. Holy crud. I think I'm the only person that probably didn't have an SVJ was on his name. But yeah, it's just the black belts are great, but you gotta take the time to level them. I was hoping I was gonna try to sneak in there at like level 27. Then I had a little birdie on my shoulders that I should never ever do that at 300% clamp. So I just let it go. Like I said, the knight did the job for me with but like you'll see here coming up here in these chaos fights, is just like Chaos is gonna get punched for like 1,000 damage.
And maybe we'll pass it over here to the OG as Wilcleosis. Do you want to take this Chaos fight?
I would need the restream.
Oh, it's live in the Discord here. You can see it from Ding if you just. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, here goes Rubes taking on Chaos, starting not with the nuclear. So we saw big variance between SVJ and Wilcleosis' fights when Chaos turn 1 nucleared SVJ and only turned like 3 or 4 on Wilcleosis. But Rubes getting similar to Wilcleosis. His whole party's up, and he's able to get off critical lock spells and invis spells. All of this was as Chaos actually goes into his spell list. Fire 3 perfect with a party with 4 ribbons. Continuing with nukes for the thief, not much else he can do, but getting off locks, getting off fast, getting off invises, everything that he needs to make sure that this fight goes as quickly as possible. Rubes also has the extra levels on the black belt, so it's hitting extra hard without the need for those tempers, which we saw both Wilcleosis and SVJ going towards. Definitely not the wrong thing to do, but I don't believe Rubes has access to it, so that's why no tempers going out here. He is out of invis though, so that is going to cause a little bit of problems. That means he's, I believe, at around 4 invis stacks. So not perfect, but should be good enough when that black belt is hitting 1,400 damage per punch. This is 1 turn away here, and Rubes could get away without even seeing a single cast of nuclear. As his black belt still has 940 HP. Chaos takes a nuke to the face and goes down, as Rubes is our 3rd place finisher, 3rd place on stream with an official SRL time of 2 hours and 5 minutes. GG to Rubes, and congratulations.
And meanwhile, we have Derringers over here on Kraken 2. They'll probably be heading towards Chaos in the near. So again, GG's to Rubes 000 for a great Kraken fight, and we'll see if they're able to come in for an interview in a couple minutes.
Yeah, and off stream we did have Scytown unfortunately forfeiting, as that was a very, very tough flag set, and he was having a little bit of difficulties. Here, I did want to highlight one key difference with Derringers' party, which is that Derringers has that white wizard, and that's a big difference in this flag set for a few reasons. One is that they have, one big difference. It has Cure 4 and Heal 3 available, so all those, heal pot situations not happening to nearly the same extent for Derringers. Does still need to be conservative with their spell charges and everything, but has a lot more access to healing magic, as, there you go, Cure 4 comes out.
I find it, like, how did white mages, let's talk about, or white wizards, didn't see a lot of them in this particular seed. Just curious from SVJ and Wilcleosis, your perspective on not having things like Heal 3, Cure 4, Life 2 available to you. Is that something that you are hoping for, or something that you just decided, I might not get this, but it's more important for me to have offense?
I probably shouldn't say this, but The answer to that question is actually not kind of what you're leading into. The only thing that I'm missing not having a white mage is superior stat growth within the character of the way that is configured. Yeah, there's the shot at this and the slots, but I'm gonna find a way through, and I'm gonna utilize each and every resource that's possible that's there to get through. Hopefully without a white mage, because I'm just personally not a fan.
Absolutely fair. And unfortunately, Darren Dries has taken a wipe and has forfeit from the race. But we are joined in the booth by our third place and final finisher. Not last overall, but third place on stream and third place on stream here, and the final finisher of this race, Rubes. And looks like he might be having small connection problems, but we will try again shortly. And we will pull in Darren Dries. Darren Dries, tough one there.
Not gonna finish that one.
Yeah, you don't
brutal.
usually see Krakens hitting for 1500.
Well,
yeah,
when
you do.
300% clamped with fast.
Yeah, you don't usually
You'll see
see
that.
Krakens hitting for 1500.
That's definitely not the kind of way you want
I
to
suppose.
300% clamped
up
with
that,
fast.
fight, especially
You'll
when
see
you're dealing
Yeah.
out a ton of damage already. That's
And that
definitely
Kraken
not
can be
the
overwhelming.
kind of way you want to be.
Yeah, that's for sure. That was a fun seed,
especially when
though. It
you're
was
dealing out
a
ton
lot of
damage
fun to
already.
have the free airship
And that Kraken
and
too can be
floor and entrance shuffle, because you could go anywhere from just
Yeah,
about
that's for
king
sure.
and
That
king.
was a fun seed, though. It was.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually. You bring up something that makes me kind of curious. What your perspectives were just going into the seed in terms of how you were going to do exploration. But before we do that, you just brought Rubes into our broadcast booth. So GG Rubes, congrats on taking a third place in a very, very difficult seed.
GG. Thoroughly. Except,
GG Rubes, congratulations and nice to meet you.
yes, nice to meet you.
So I want to give Rubes and Darren Dries a chance to talk about this seed and some of their reflections. I'm kind of curious, what was your plan going into the seed, and how did that change as you started diving some dungeons and recognizing the types of difficulty that you were going to have? Darren Dries, we'll let you go first, and then we'll pass over to Rubes.
Yeah, I wanted to see what was all out there since we had the airship, find as many towns as I could right away, and just find like easier first floors at least. I knew that we had a decent first run, so you could get through about half of the floors in the first run, so you could see what the second floor was in a dungeon 2. But at least if you're on like an Earth 1, you've got a bunch of places to check, and then you can see what comes after that. Where if you're in Sky Castle at level 2, you're in a world of hurt if you run into anybody.
And yeah, maybe. Oh well, yeah. I was just going to pass over a similar question to Rubes. We are having a little bit of trouble hearing him, so if you hear breakups, it's just I believe he's on mobile, as our tracker pointed out. But pass it over to Rubes, and then we will. Unfortunately, this was a longer seed, so we'll just head into final thoughts after that. So that way we can get everyone out of here before bedtime. So Rubes, kind of any thoughts on the seed and maybe your final thoughts as well.
Well, I knew it was going to be tough because of really high. I figured I was eventually going to have to get one punch man, but I figured I'd take a dive and have to. Didn't quite work. And then even did get him up to one punch man. So like, well, where can I grind every? Like, oh, that war mech, because I faced him. If I remember, then I was able to that. Yeah, it was. Those were some tough enemies.
Yeah, for sure.
Even the normal grind, like just loaded with HP and attack power.
Mm-hmm.
Rough.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for racing, and congratulations on your third place finish. I think anyone who even finished the seed deserves a big round of applause. So great job. You did us all proud here. Passing it over to Darren Dries. Any final thoughts on the seed?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Good job to everybody who finished. Wish I hadn't reset out of a grind. That would have made life a lot easier. But a couple little mistakes along the way. But it was fun to race, and I felt pretty close to the folks who were finishing. I just didn't want to keep diving Temple of Fiends 20 times.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, those are definitely, good words of advice. Passing over to our second place finisher, SVJ, St. Von Jester. Any final thoughts? And thanks for hanging out with us in the booth while other people finished up.
Yeah, thank you for the race. Thank you guys for having us. GG to everyone who raced in the seed. This was actually a pretty tough seed for a lot of ducklings and things like that. Floor shuffle and entrance shuffle are very difficult if you don't have a tracker or anything like that. I ran one still myself. Thank you, Elmarkin, for that that spreadsheet. Appreciate it much. But yeah, I've been out for too long, and I'm very happy that I got back in here. Team Vorpal represent, hell yeah. But yeah, if you guys have not played this game, if you guys are just hanging out here on Randomania, trying to figure out what you guys want to do, if you guys want to play this game, get into our Discord, get to everyone here, join the Duckling program, as Will Cleosa said earlier. It is a lot of fun. I enjoy this game very much, and again, thank you, Jet and DVS, for hanging out and doing the commentary, man. Thank you guys very much for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, SVJ. And passing it over to our winner, thank you for hanging out in the booth with us for half an hour. Will Cleosis, any final thoughts? And no stranger to the commentary booth yourself.
Thank you. Getting me a chance to get at the fans. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the show, Dengwu, you yourself, DVS, and Jet, you can play ball on that microphone, my friend. I know a little bit about it, and very well done. That's a good smile on your face, my friend. Co-op tournament coming up. The sign-ups close July 15th at midnight. I believe that's Pacific time. I'm not exactly sure. It is fun. Sit back, enjoy it as a viewer if you want, whether it's later on YouTube or on any of our the broadcast partners for Final Fantasy Randomizer. Watch out for the game changers. It's the Enforcer Falconic. Joining forces with, he's back, he's the Dragon Slayer this time. It is the Infectious Will Cleosis himself. He will be there. Game Changers, going to have a blast and have a great time, and I certainly hope everyone enjoys it. And thank you to Randomania as well for giving us the slot and the television time to put out the game that I love the most.
Awesome. Some fantastic final thoughts. And yeah, I'm pretty much done here, so go ahead.
Still has it, so.
Yeah, always form your own opinions with Will Cleosis. Always form your own opinions. Don't listen to what anyone ever says. He still got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have nothing else to say, so I'm going to pass it over to my great co-coms for this evening, DVS, to wrap us up. Final thoughts and close the show, DVS.
I just want to say, we are here, we watch the stream, we play this game because we love this game. It's a lot of fun, it's a great community. If you've been like I was literally 2 months ago, watching YouTube videos and saying, hey, that game looks like fun, take the big step, join the Discord, FinalFantasyRandomizer.com, and just start playing. It's incredible to have the Duckling program to help you get used to the game, to ask all of the random quote unquote stupid questions that there are tons of people in the community that are happy to answer, happy to get you into the game, and really just run some pickup races. We did just finish up the Duckling Derby just a few days ago. Up in the future, we do have the co-op tournament, which we still have, as Will Cleosis pointed out, we still have the opportunity for people to join with their teams. We also have some other events coming up. We do have our ongoing Iron Gall Season 1, where really anyone that's in the community is able to challenge another member of the Iron Gall community to a set of flags to try to see if you can get your way to rank number 1 in Iron Gall. We also have the Hardcore series, which we are calling our Red Ankylose series, I believe, our rank. And that is a set of blind flags that a number of our runners will all get together to run blind. They've never seen any of the flags. They don't know what's going on. And they race to see who comes in top. We also have a randomizer relay race that's coming up in the near future. We are running, at the moment, it's Excite Bike Golf, Contra, Mega Man 2 randomizer, and Final Fantasy randomizer. A lot of things coming up in the near future. Keep an eye out in the Discord. Keep an eye out. Thank you to Randomania for hosting this broadcast. And there's a lot of great things happening in the future. Just get involved, ask questions, and we're happy to help. And with that, again, thank you to Jat, my co-commentator. Thank you to Dangwu, who is a restreamer. Therese Lefeur for doing an amazing job with our tracking. GG's to Rube000, Von Jester, Wilkliosis, Darren Drees, and Town for running today. Thank you all for being here in chat. Thank you for participating in this community. We hope you enjoyed the race and hope you have a wonderful evening.